Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and I hope you all are doing great. In this video I'll be showing you how I made these baked fish rolls. They tasted super delicious and they are easy to put together. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel, please, there's a red button there that says subscribe. Please click on it, and after that click on the bell sign. That's where you get notifications whenever I upload a new video. So if you're interested to see how I made this, then please stay tuned and let me run you through the ingredients. So for my list of ingredients, I've got 2 medium-sized mackerel fish which I've cut each one into 2 and they have been cleaned and washed. Next with me, I've got 1 medium-sized grated onion, but however you can feel free to chop yours into tiny pieces, but I just don't want to see onion pieces in this recipe. Next, I've got 1 Scotch bonnet pepper for some heat, but however if you don't tolerate heat, then you can go ahead and substitute the Scotch bonnet pepper for some black or white pepper. Next with me, I've got 1 tablespoon of my homemade ginger and garlic paste, and the link to this recipe will be in the description box below so you can check it out later. To season, I'll be using 1 fish seasoning cube, half teaspoon of curry powder, half teaspoon of dry thyme, half teaspoon of black pepper, a quarter teaspoon of nutmeg, and a quarter teaspoon of salt. So to begin this recipe, we'll start by cooking the mackerel fish, and to that I'll be adding half of the fish seasoning cube. Next, I'll mix all the spices together and I'll add half of it and reserve the rest for later use. So next, I'll add in half of the ginger and garlic paste. I'll reserve the rest for later use as well. I'll also do the same with the grated onion, add in half and reserve the rest for later use as well. So at this point, I'll just go ahead and add in about 1 cup of water. I'll send this to the cooker and allow to cook down for at least 10 to 12 minutes on a medium heat. For my list of ingredients for the dough, I've got 1 kilo of all-purpose flour, which is about 4 cups of the standard measuring cup. Next with me here, I've got 1 tablespoon of baking powder, half teaspoon of nutmeg, and a quarter teaspoon of salt. In here, I have 1 tablespoon of sugar, but if you are making below 1 kilo, let's say you are using 500 grams of flour, then use 1 teaspoon of sugar. In here, I've got 250 grams of cold chopped unsalted butter. In here, I've got 2 large eggs, but if you are making below 1 kilo, then use 1 large egg. Lastly, I've got half cup of cold water. For the dough mixture, first I added in the 1 tablespoon of sugar. Next, I'm adding the baking powder, nutmeg, and salt. I'll give it a good mix until it is properly incorporated. So once that process is completed, the next step is to add in the cubed cold butters and I'll work them in until it is crumbly. So once that process is completed, it will look crumbly just like so. Next, we are going to make a well and beat in the 2 large eggs. So at this point, I'll add in a little amount of water. You always have to add in the liquid bit by bit so you end up with the right consistency. So I'm just going to work this in until a dough is formed. At this point, we have achieved the perfect consistency for our dough, and I won't be adding more water. The quantity of water I added was approximately about 1/3 cup of water. So what I'm going to do now is to transfer the dough to my work surface, and I will knead this for about 2 to 3 minutes. Do not over knead the dough so you don't end up with a very tough baked fish rolls. At this point, I'll transfer the dough to a bowl, cover and allow to rest for at least 10 to 15 minutes while I debone the mackerel fish. Okay guys, so back to the pot. At this point, I'm just going to be taking out the mackerel fish from the stock, and I'll allow them to cool down a bit. So I'll let them cool down a bit, debone them off camera in order to save time, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so this is what our mackerel fish is looking like after deboning and matching. I also took out some of the mackerel skin because I don't like the mackerel skin, but however you can just match yours up with the skin entirely. And this is all the bone I took out from the mackerel. So please make sure you debone yours properly, especially when you have kids that will be eating from this. Moving over to the next step, at this point we'll be making the filling for the sausage rolls. So to a saucepan, I'll be adding about 3 to 4 tablespoons of light olive oil. You can feel free to use any oil of your choice, and I will let it heat up. At this point, I'm adding the grated onion, and like I said earlier, you can feel free to chop your onion into pieces, but I just don't want to see onion in this recipe. Next, I'll be adding the ginger and garlic paste, and I'll saute this on a medium heat for about 2 minutes. So next, I'm adding the chopped Scotch bonnet pepper, and like I said earlier, if you don't tolerate heat, then you can substitute this for black or white pepper. Next, I'm adding the remaining mixed up spices I introduced earlier. Add in the remaining fish seasoning cube. I'll mix up everything together and allow to saute for additional 30 seconds. Next, I'll add in our deboned and mashed mackerel, stir everything to combine, and our filling for the fish rolls is ready. Here I have my baking tray lined with parchment paper, but however you can just grease your baking pan, or better still line them with foil paper, but be sure to grease them to avoid sticking. At this point, transfer the dough to a work surface and knead for some few seconds and roll out just as shown here. Once that process is completed, cut the dough to get 14 equal pieces. Once that process is completed, pick up one of the dough and roll out just as shown. The next step is to scoop in 1 tablespoon of the fish filling, and you have to be careful of the amount you scoop in so that it will be enough for the rest of the dough. The next step is to roll up the dough, so gently lift up and fold over just as shown. Seal with your fingers and roll. I'll place this on my baking tray facing the end part down just like so, and I'll repeat the same process with the remaining. When placing them on the baking tray, you have to make sure this end part is facing down. So now that I have everything rolled up, the next step is to egg wash, and my oven is preheating at 170 degrees Celsius. I'll transfer to the oven and bake for 15 to 20 minutes. Our fish rolls are ready, and look at how beautiful they turned out. They smell so delicious. I'm just going to let them cool down completely. They are completely cold now, so I'll just break one open so you can see how it looks inside. They are so flaky, buttery, and they tasted super delicious. We've come to the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed watching, and I hope you give this recipe a try. And if you like the video, please be sure to click the like button. Subscribe to my channel if you are not already, and remember to turn on the notification bell. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. I want to say a big thank you to you all for watching. Stay safe, and I will see you all in my next one.